Hello, my name is Mitchell McCamey, and today we'll be going over humane types of animal slaughter. Animal slaughter is a touchy subject in America today. Some even claim the meat industry is inhumane. In this presentation, the facts and laws will be presented in order to show all of the steps meatpacking plants take in order to be as humane as possible. So in this presentation, we're going to be going over how animals are slaughtered, what kind of animals are slaughtered, why it's important for animals to be slaughtered, and just like previously stated, the laws and regulations that keep the animal's best interests in mind at all times. Why animals are slaughtered. Over 70% of Americans rely on meat as a main source of protein and calories in their diets. So, like it says, it's pretty straightforward. 70% of Americans don't solely rely on vegetables or vegetable proteins to survive on a day-to-day basis. This survive is a strong word, but to fuel themselves on a day-to-day basis. Most people, if you ask 7 out of 10 people, they'll say that they include meat into their daily diet. So that's anything from going and getting a burger from McDonald's, cooking a steak at home, hamburger meat, or really any other meat products like chicken, turkey, pork. A lot of people in America rely on those products to fuel themselves and live their best lives and being full while doing it. What kind of animals are slaughtered? So the most common ones in America, and this is referring to America, not any other foreign countries or places like that, is going to be beef, pork, and poultry. So poultry is usually or not usually, but people most commonly think of it as chicken, but that also includes turkey as well, being poultry. And obviously there are some more, like, I guess, exotic species, you could say, that of meat that you can get in America. So for example, lambs, but it's just, for this presentation I didn't include it because it's not as popular as these three main groups of animals. But beef, pork, poultry, the top three meat products in America. The first method of slaughter we're going to be talking about is going to be for beef or cows or cattle. So in this case, a captive bolt gun is used immediately to render the animal unconscious without causing any pain. So as you can see from the image, if it'll load, it won't, so we'll get rid of that. But as you can see from the image, it's just a little kind of pistol shaped gun that you can put little gas caps into, or CO2 canisters, that propels a nail or bolt into the brain of the cow, completely rendering them brain dead. At this point, they are not 100% dead all of the time, but they will not feel any pain, will not feel anything, or know at all what's going on. So at that point, once it is completely rendered unconscious, or stunned is what a lot of people call them, is these would be called stunners, that's when you would cut underneath their throat to drain the blood, and that would effectively kill them. They would no longer be able to breathe, and obviously once you lose all your blood, the animal will no longer be alive. So this is the most humane way, because as soon as the animal enters the kill floor, is what it's called, it is completely immobilized, can't feel pain, no idea what's going on. And especially with captive bolt guns, 9 times out of 10, it is an effective, it makes an effective shot at completely rendering them brain dead. A lot of times in lower, in smaller slaughterhouses, things like guns will be used, which is a little bit less effective at, or a little bit less accurate at stunning the cows. Next, we're going to be talking about how pigs are slaughtered. So in most cases, big slaughterhouses use electricity stunning to neutralize pigs, while smaller operations may opt for a small caliber rifle. So if you're doing thousands of pigs a day, it's going to be much easier, much more efficient to use the electric prods that that sit right behind the pig's head, send an electrical current, and it's held there for 10 to 15 seconds, rendering the pig brain dead, like previously talked with the cows. So the whole idea is to have them be brain dead so they can't feel pain, and it's as humane as possible to then take further steps to render them completely dead. So, and like I said, in smaller operations, a small caliber rifle will then be a smarter choice because it's expensive, a lot of upkeep, and if you're not doing large quantities a day, it's really not much benefit of using the electric prods opposed to the small caliber rifle. In most cases, from my personal experience, in most cases for pigs, 22 caliber rifle is what is used to stun the pigs, which also 22 can be used for most cattle as well. Sometimes with bulls you have to use a higher caliber. How poultry are slaughtered. Controlled atmospheric stunning is most often used in large operations where a lot of birds need to be stunned at the same time, but electricity as well as the removal of the chickens' heads are also common practices. So, like I talked about with the pigs, the first method is going to be for the super large packing plants that are doing tens of thousands of birds a day. They're not doing 12 and then calling it a day. So the controlled atmospheric stunning is where the chickens are hooked by their feet on a conveyor belt or like a moving system to bring them into a room where the atmosphere is like it's in the name, controlled to where it effectively stuns them. And obviously you can fill the entire room up with birds, so you can do, depends on the size of the chamber, but hundreds to thousands at a time, so you can get working on large groups at the same time. Electricity is also can be used in but in this case, where it'd be dissimilar to the pigs, the birds would be dipped in a pool of electrified water, and then they would be rendered stunned. In my research, this is not a super common practice anymore. Some places I saw still use this method of stunning, but it's not super common. And then the final one is, obviously, if you're just living on a farm, you're gonna harvest a couple chickens, you're just gonna cut their head off. You're not gonna do anything crazy because it's just two birds. You're not a packing plant. You're not an operation. It's just for your own food. Laws and regulations involving the animal slaughter. So, as you can imagine, there's a lot of laws and regulations revolving around this topic because it's obviously it can be a highly stressful topic for most people. And obviously everyone cares about the animals and doesn't want any animal to suffer, whether they're being used for meat for America or not. And in every case, pretty much, no one ever wants animals to suffer. So the Humane Methods of Slaughter Act, HMSA, is one of those things that gives each slaughterhouse or packing plant the exact rules they need to follow to have the most humane operation possible. Also, from my experience as well, people similar to health inspectors, which obviously it's a different field, so will come by the packing plant and make sure everything is up to code and all your practices are following the Humane Methods of Slaughter Act, to make sure that you're not giving animals poor treatment when obviously you should be treating them with just as much respect as anything else. How do slaughterhouses follow these regulations to keep the animal's best interest in mind? So, like I was just talking about, it is the owner of the slaughterhouse or the managers, however large it may be, it is their job to make sure their workers are following each of the rules of the processes that are put in place to have the best treatment of the animals throughout the entire process, dead or alive. It's also about keeping like animal quarters clean. So a lot of times, the cows or pigs don't get straight off the truck and right into the slaughter. They'll sit in pens or something like that to hold them until it is time, and they can be in those pens for a day or just a couple hours. But it is very crucial to keep the animal quarters very clean, stocked with water. No food is not necessary, but definitely water for long if they're going to be staying in there for a long time. But just stuff like that, making sure the animals are comfortable throughout the entire process, and managers keeping their workers in line, making sure that they're following the best practices for that slaughterhouse. Why are slaughterhouses demonized? So this is a pretty easy question to answer. A lot of people in America don't realize, I guess they do realize, but no one in the entire world is really super duper fond of killing animals, and it is can be a very gruesome process and seem inhumane. So it's just one of those things where with anything that gets demonized, it's just looking on it from the outside without all the benefits of it, having all the benefits of it in mind. It can definitely seem as a poor way to treat animals, but in reality it is 100% necessary for America to be as successful as it is. As previously stated on the first side, slaughterhouses are extremely important in America because that's what people rely on. Besides just food, it also supplies a lot of Americans with steady, constant work, because it's always going to be a part of America. There will never be a time in this country that meat is not a necessity for the country to run. So not only does it feed America, it also props up the American economics as well, just with the whole entire cattle industry, whole entire pork industry, all of the animal industries, as well as the slaughter side of that industry. Is just a big money-making business. Thank you for listening to my presentation about humane types of animal slaughter. I hope you learned something, and that's about all. Here are my 3 sources.